What's going on, guys? I want to make this video, and I'm very curious. How many people out there are fascinated with religion? Not necessarily in the sense that uh, they believe uh, in uh, in a religion, right? But just fascinated with the idea, the concepts. One of the things that fascinates me is that in every religion that I've looked into, it is always couched in its culture. Now that may sound like weird, that's something I'm bringing up, but think about it. If you have a God who's eternal, not confined to space and time, as now that's kind of like the thing, right? God's not confined to space and time. Um, then why would any religious text, all right? Why would it always just? It's like it's shackled to its culture. It's shackled to its view of the world in that time period. Um, and I find that fascinating. It's one of those things that makes me question the divine origin of said texts. um, the way the culture perceives life, gender roles, uh, good and bad. Just we're saying that these texts are from an omniscient, eternal being, but yet in each text it's confined to its culture and the issues of that day, the issues of that culture. Whether it's the Hebrew Bible, whether it's the Quran, um, the Tao Te Ching, uh, the discourses of the Buddha. And some people would probably push back and say, well, you would expect if it's written in that culture, then it would be confined to that culture. Yes and no, because a supreme being that is eternal could give supreme knowledge to somebody within that culture that transcends beyond the morals and views of that culture, right? I mean, I think that's plausible, and that would likely be the case that you would get morality 100% correct right out the gate if you're perfect. You know what I'm saying? And I just find it really fascinating that there really isn't uh, an example of that. I guess you could kind of say that within the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but I say to you, Matthew 5 discourse, the Sermon on the Mount, you can kind of get that there is some views that transcend that, but prior to that, you had the Buddha saying, you know, they will have ill will, we will not. They will have wrong view, we will have right view. They will be cruel, we will not be cruel. Um, and so even prior to that discourse, you have things that that are like that, but not from a divine origin, if that makes sense. At least within the Buddha's discourses, they're not of a divine origin. They're not from a God that was given to him, um, or it's not revelation. It's not revealed like according to Christians, the Bible, the Scripture, Jews, then according to Muslims, the Quran is revealed. It's the speech of Allah, right? So I find that fascinating, and it just shows how human it is, um, that it doesn't have an example like that especially with the whole slavery, genocide, um, the view of women, uh, the sacrifices, and it's kind of like it's just a stream of thought that progresses and then changes its view. Uh, I don't want to say to fit with the times, but it changes its view over time. It evolves, like everything evolves. And we see this in all religions. They all evolve. That is why you have uh, three existing schools. Uh, there were multiple other schools of Buddhism and Hinduism, but Buddhism in general, Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana, Vajrayana, like Tibetan Buddhism. Um, the point is, the religion evolves over time. People take different pieces and then create their own schools or philosophies or thoughts. Same with Christianity. You had so many different views. Judaism, different views, different schools, different classes. Um, the Quran, you got different views, different schools. Uh, the Taoism, even Taoism. So there isn't a religion that doesn't have different views or different schools and didn't split. Uh, and I find that interesting. But the crazy part about it that I question a lot, and maybe you do too, but there's a God, a being who knows the truth, right? Who knows the truth 100%. And if he wanted to, or she wanted to, or it wanted to, it could reveal the truth to all of humanity so that no human would ever be punished eternally, right? And not all religion has eternal punishment in the same sense. But that's just the predominant ones, right? Christianity, Islam are the predominant ones of heaven and hell. God is going to send you either to heaven or hell. Um, so let's stick with those two in regard to this. There is a God who's omniscient, who loves you, right? Unconditionally. Say the word, you're forgiven. Boom. Okay. Um, Unconditional, but will send you to punishment forever, 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 ever, forever, ever. Yes, but they could choose to reveal the truth so that no human being would have to experience that. And problem is people say anything. The thing is you have to go to the texts. In the text it says that God has the power to cast both body and soul into hell. So the casting is done by God. And that's what, according to the Bible, that's what Jesus said, right? So the thing is, I've heard people say you've seen yourself there, or whatever the case may be. Um, and it's just how do I say this? What I think happens is that we have these existential questions. Why am I here? What is my purpose? Why does anything exist? And then when we find an answer, uh, say, oh, the Bible says, right? We we take that answer and it quenches our fears, especially hell, eternal punishment. Jesus Christ, right? Go, Jesus, save me. I want to go to hell. No one wants to go to hell, right? Oh, Allah, guide me. I don't want to be a disbeliever who will suffer eternal pain in hell. Like, okay, no one wants that. The thing is, this God could reveal the truth to us so that no one experiences that. But yet they don't. So we're all sitting here trying to figure out what is right, what's correct, who's telling the truth, who's lying. And it's just one of those things that it's mentally exhausting, for one. And so you're trying to really you're studying all this stuff to try to figure it out. But I found a better approach. Um, found a better approach, and it's that it's a literature. It, when you read it as literature, it doesn't put you in fight or flight, right? You're not reading it and it's it's like a yes or no button, like you're reading it and it's literature. And it, it makes it like reading any other book. And then you see, oh, it's just a book. It's a page with writing on it. So this is what happens, all right? We find something that answers those questions. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What happens after I die? You find those answers, boom, right? And then when you start finding the abhorrent, horrible stuff like the slavery in the Bible, the genocide in the Bible, the raping of the women in the Bible, the owning of people, the child sacrifice, the all that stuff, right? Or in the Quran, the beating the wife, the the fighting against those that fight against you, um, Jews and Christians won't enter heaven, or whatever the case may be. And in the hadiths, if you're Sunni, which 90% of Muslims are Sunni, um, uh, Muhammad sleeping with Aisha when she was 9, married her when she was 6, consummated when she was 9. Um, all this horrible stuff, and you take those because to question again opens up those questions again. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What happens after I die? So the slavery, we're going to eat that. The genocide, we're going to eat that. The child sacrifice, we'll eat that. The beating the wife, we'll eat that. The all that stuff, right? Because that is much more bearable than opening up those questions again. And that's the problem. We really have to we really have to ask ourselves those questions of, if this was in any other book, but I hold to it as tightly as I do now. See what I'm saying? Like, if you were to read that it's okay to beat your wife in the New Testament, would you hold to it as tightly? If you were to read, whoever does not hate their father, their mother, their brother, even their own life more than me, they're not worthy of me. If you were to read that in the Quran, you said, now, do you understand? Do you see it now? Do you see how you've compartmentalized your answers to the questions in one book that represents one religion? But if you were to read that same writing in a different book of a different religion, how does that make you feel? What do you think about that? Do you see? And that's what we call cognitive dissonance, where you can recognize something that is crazy and outlandish if it's not within your own framework and you put it in a different framework that you already disagree with, right? Do you agree with the statement? Forget that it's in the Bible. Forget that it's in the Quran. Forget that it's in the discourses. Forget that it's in the Rig Veda or the Tao Te Ching. Do you agree with the statement? Would you hate your mother, father, brother, and sister? Your mother, the one who gave birth to you, sacrificed 9 months of her life, who probably has gone through postpartum depression and fought that, who stayed up how many hours of the night to to care for you, to make sure you were fed, who possibly has stayed in a relationship she didn't want to just for the sake of you as a child, who has given her money, who probably worked as a single mother, like the you would hate her over somebody who has a message that may or may not be true, but hasn't came and told you that message. They told somebody else to tell you that message, which you would never accept in any other sphere of your life. If you had a coworker and they called you and was like, "Hey, just want to let you know I just got off the phone with the boss and he said you're fired." It's like, wait. Why didn't the boss call me and tell me I'm fired? Why is he calling you? Oh, I don't know. That's just how he does things. Anyway, you're fired. Don't come in tomorrow. You know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to go to the boss. You're going to go to the boss and you're going to tell the boss, call the boss, "Hey, this is what so and so told me. Is it true?" That's what you need to do, right? That's what you need to do. This is what this book tells me. Is it true? It says that you came and saw, you walked with Adam in the garden. It says that you came and visited Abraham. Oh, it says that you wrestled with Jacob. Oh, it also says that you speak to Moses like a friend face to face. Oh, okay. Oh, this says Gabriel. Hey, Gabriel, you there? Hey, or Jabril, you there? This says you spoke to Muhammad. Uh, Allah. It says this is your speech. Allah, can you come and speak to me? Allah. But we don't do that because we've found a remedy to those questions. And if we question those questions, it becomes uncomfortable again. Anyway, that's just my theory. I would love to hear, what you guys think. Also, let me know what you guys are reading. Right now, I'm reading a lot of Majjhima Nikaya, which are the Buddha's middle discourses. You can find those for free at Sutta, Sutta, central.net, middle discourses, and you can pick your translation and you can read those. Fascinating stuff. And I'm also reading the Quran again. Uh, um, some of the Bible here and there. And but I'm curious if you've never read any other religious text, I encourage you to. I encourage you to. If you've never read the discourses, read those. If you've never read the Quran, read the Quran. If you've never read the Bible, read the Bible. I mean, read these things for yourself and read them as literature. And the reason I want you to read it as literature is because it won't put your mind into fight or flight. Nobody makes good decisions when the mind is in fight or flight. Then throw in some fiction too. For God's sakes, throw in some poetry. Throw in a sci-fi or fantasy book. Fantasy book that has its own religion in it. You know, um, trying to think of a good fantasy book that like has its own views or beliefs or things like that. I think the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson does a really good job. Then also Dune. Dune's a fantastic sci-fi fantasy book that shows just how quick somebody can become a god and deified and become a hero, and stories written about them, and just these messiah figures. They can rise up anywhere. It's pretty interesting stuff. But anyway, let me know what you're reading, why you're reading it. Like if you just want to tell me what religious text you hate the most, what religious text you love the most. Um, yeah, man, I find this stuff all fascinating. I love this stuff. Um, I think it's interesting. And hopefully make some more videos on different topics. Appreciate y'all. Take care.